Yes, sir.
What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the Voices of Change. This is episode 5, and this is Breaking Cycles episode. You know, we got I'm not gonna introduce you, you're gonna introduce yourself.
Okay. Well, we have this magnanimous host here, Tex and then the illustrious Midas Martinez, pen name otherwise known as Gabe Martinez, here to come and soothe and present to you the information today based on our topic. Just want to say thank you all for joining us, and I look forward to us all having a breakthrough on this episode. Yes, sir.
Big brother said it best right there. Um I was gonna give him a greeting real quick, but I can't. Technically I'm not even supposed to. I get greeted before him actually. I'm just kidding. Whatever. I'm just talking shit. Um so today's episode, it's all about breaking cycles, generational, emotional, social, political, and all of it. Because the truth is, we don't really, we don't have to keep repeating ourselves and what has harmed us. We can choose something different. We can definitely find a way to break that cycle, and that's what we want to focus on today. So Gabe and I will be talking about that and kind of bouncing back off each other. We're going to be talking about healing families and learning the victim mindset, not blindly following the crowd, and also the whole idea that, politics shouldn't dictate who you are allowed to be cool with. Spoiler alert, it shouldn't. So Gabe already knew I was going to bring that up, but I'm also going to bring up about the aspect of we should break the cycle on this ignorance on clean energy and shifting to electric vehicles. So I'll also talk about that a little bit later on. But right now, so let's start close to home, you know, with family. I know for me, um, I've seen firsthand how trauma can be passed down without anyone really talking about it. Silence can feel safer than honesty sometimes, and but that silence is part of the cycle. So, Gabe, what comes to mind for you when we talk about healing with family, and where do you think it starts?
Of course. S- Immediately when I think about healing within the family, I always a little deeper than surface level. I like to approach it from the actual landscape of when we were, as a Black community, once slaves, and how the family was broken up in that regard, and now how, moving throughout the last couple of centuries, how it has evolved for the Black dysfunctional family that we see today. Um, Back in the day, of course, families were separated during the times of slavery. Uh, it was a true survival mindset. It was, for a lot of people, you had to do what you had to do. Understandably so. Families are split up, especially the father and mother split, and kids split as well. As we move forward into this current day, to my existence and my personal endeavors, what I've seen in multiple Black families is a disconnection between having like fathers in the household, which is on the rise as of recently. However, growing up for myself, and I know for a lot of others in my specific Bay Area community, that they didn't have fathers in the household, so they were raised by their mothers. And a lot of that, also that dysfunction, comes from a mother putting necessary, I would say unnecessary, standards on their sons to perform and to do the things that potentially a father figure would be doing. That responsibility that has been passed down to us as Black boys and Black men has shaped the landscape of the family in an entire different way. And I think now, as we move forward as a community, we are starting to break that trend. You see a lot more of complete households of black mother and father in the household working together. I think uh, when it comes to healing, I think it's having those conversations about like your upbringing, about where you were in the past and how that affects the way that you act out as an adult in your relationships as family. It could be brother, sister. It could be mother, son. It could be wife and husband. I think opening and having actual conversations. For instance, I had a really big problem with my now wife having like a mother and father, since I didn't have a mother and father for so many years. It was like a culture shock for me to actually have to show reverence, show respect, to revere someone in a motherly and fatherly role, because for all intents and purposes, I had to be that role for myself. Yeah, I had older brothers and sisters, right? However, you don't necessarily revere your siblings in the same way you revere a parent. And in the same way for in-laws, it was really hard for me to show that reverence towards them. And understanding my personal situation of not having parents, I had to adjust the way that I approach that moving forward. And of course, it's a learning curve, but having open discussions about where you come from and how you see the world, it illuminates the perceptions that both sides, not saying it's always two sides, but that the family or the community or the group have, and it makes it so that we can all come together and understand where we all stand and how we can move forward. So that's always a big part when it talks about, for me, when it talks about healing within a family. It always starts for me with myself and understanding where I come from, why my parents, and if I didn't have parents, why the people in my life, the leaders, the guardians, what have you, why they did what they did, asking those big questions, and then approaching the conversation. Okay, they did this because that's all they could do, or that's what they knew, and not and also a sense of forgiveness to understand that yes, nobody's perfect, right? Whether you've been through multiple traumatic experiences, or say somebody did something to you, you don't like it, but understanding the why and reasoning behind it, and then being able to move forward is the necessary steps that I've taken, and I think that we all should take to heal within the family. Because especially as in our Black community, like when we come together, we're a strong unit. The family is one of the most strongest units, I believe, in the world. If you have a family that has your back and you have their back, and you can confide in them, you can ask for help, you can lean on them in times of need, and also provide something to the family when they need it. I think that goes far beyond than just uh, what the actual identity of the family is, and especially in the Black community, I think that we need more uh, of tight knit circles of families, of communities that can buy in together. Because not specifically talking, stemming back from what you're talking about, with understanding generational, emotional, social, political, etc. type of cycles and breaking those cycles. We're not going to be able to break any cycle unless we do our research, do our due diligence in the background, and then bring that to the forethought of, okay, this is what was happening back in the past, but we live in a new age and we need to adjust. Having those conversations and being able to have those tough conversations, good and bad, uh, is what is going to propel us forward, not only as a family, but as a community, as a group, as a people of Black people. So, especially here in America, that's just my personal opinion, my personal observation through the different literature that I've written, wrote, read, but in addition as well, like a bit of the different types of situations that I've been a part of as well. Yes, sir.
Exactly. Um, and sometimes being the one who chooses healing means stepping into that uncomfortable space, setting boundaries and going to therapy, speaking up. And that can feel like rebellion, but it's really love, right? Now let's kind of like shifting into like dismantling societal systems, and I know you got a lot to say on this. I do remember, you know, hearing you talk about what you were learning in your sociology classes and reading, proofreading some of your papers. I'm like, man, I can't wait till this guy. By the way, he's gonna be publishing a book, y'all. I'm not gonna say the title of the book yet, but it's coming out soon. Just let y'all know. Be on the lookout for that.
Be
Um,
on the lookout. Coming soon in 2025.
Yes, sir. Now, zooming out, let's talk about the systems that try to trap us in cycles, right? Whether it's poverty, the school to prison pipeline, media stereotypes. We know these structures weren't built for us to thrive. But I also think part of breaking cycles is, I guess it's the understanding the systems. without becoming bitter in it so we can stop blaming each other for surviving the best way we know how. The reason I say this is because for my own self, referencing back to what you had mentioned about the whole dynamic of, where you come from, sometimes people just want to be stuck in that aspect of who they are. And it makes me think about the one cycle, let's talk about one cycle that's worn out, but I still think it's still running strong, and it's the victim mindset, victim mindset. And I'm not talking about people who have truly gone through trauma, because trauma is real. I'm talking about the habit of making helplessness your identity, of constantly pointing to what others did, but never checking what you keep allowing to happen, right?
Mm.
And I do think that you can be born in poverty, but you can not live in poverty. And sometimes that's a hard pill to swallow because it forces you to ask, what part of me is really benefiting from staying in this role? And it's easier to be a victim um, than to be accountable, because accountability means change. And I think human beings sometimes are, where, what is it? It's like where you spray, it's like a repel. We have a repellent to change. Um, and it also means discomfort. So, but victimhood, that gets you sympathy. It gets you people clapping for your pain while you stay exactly where you're at. So for me, when I came to understanding that system of where, yes, I am a victim to certain things, but I'm not gonna just keep pointing and saying like you are the reason why I'm like this. At the end of the day, if you're given life and you have the ability to do something, you have the capability to do these things, you can get out of that situation. Um, so that's kind of where I want to shift our conversation to on this. And I know Gabe, you got a lot of insight on this. So where do you see us reclaiming power and all this, G?
Man, it's really funny you said that about the victim mindset, or about anybody that may feel, okay, what's the other one? Imposter syndrome. Or you may feel that, oh, the world is against me because
Hey,
oh,
imposter syndrome is real. That shit is real.
it's real, it's real, and these are all real syndromes. These are all real studies that are backed by research. But when I personally think about victimhood, and I think about imposter syndrome, I think about people that make excuses for what where they are in life. I think an excuse is literally just a tool of incompetence that
Used to
is
build
used,
monuments,
monuments of nothingness, right?
and
And
those
and
who
those
use
that
them.
okay, come on now,
Nah,
say
you
it.
finish it. And those who use them.
Sounding good for anybody but themselves. Amen. So
Amen.
what I'm trying to say is this: is that, and I can only speak off personal experience. Every good position that I put myself in, right? I went to college. Okay, didn't even know I was going to be able to go to college. Always wanted to. Got there. Felt imposter syndrome. Made my college football team. Got a scholarship. Still felt imposter syndrome. Right. Got a six-figure job. Right. Still feel imposter syndrome. Right. And in all this, right? It's always based on, dang, do I deserve this? Is this what I've worked for? Have I put enough work in for this? Right. And you question yourself. But even even to this day, right? I find that I have to mentally check myself because yes, I've earned duly through my works and my efforts that I've earned where I am at today. I've earned to walk around amongst my peers. I've earned to earn a place where I'm at, wherever that may be, whether it's on a school, a football team, a sport team, organization, a group of individuals collected. You earn your position there. You're there for a reason. And when people and if people see that in you, you have to embrace that fact, right? You're in a position to lead. You're in a position to make change, to be a voice of change, right? Embrace it, because as we move forward throughout our life, right, you're only going to get more and more responsibility. You're only going to get more and more hurdles to jump through. If you don't build the early momentum now, when you get to the later parts of your life, things are just going to roadblock you and keep you where you're at. And I'm all about progression. I'm all about elevating the team and putting us in a position to win. And so, circling back, when I think about, right, how we can reclaim our power, and all this is really taking accountability for what we've done, where we're at, right? Despite what anybody has put us in, what situation they've put us in, what they've done to us, what anybody has not done for us, right? It's holding yourself accountable to the standards that you want to set, right? I want to be great. What does great look like? Write it out. What's your goal? Write your goals out, backwards plan. So, and then accomplish your goal step by step, knock it off. You know, they say death and life is in the power of the tongue, right? For those that, believe in God and delve into the Bible. But I firmly believe that, right? If you can speak it, if you can think it, you can believe it, you can do it, right? And I think a lot of us get caught into the trap where like, there's woe is me, right? They're continually spitting out negativity, and that's going to move in their minds and propel that forward into their actions rather than speaking positivity, speaking accomplishment, nourishment, speaking to your soul, speaking to your body, speaking to your mind to the point that at which now you're constantly elevating yourself, whether or not you are where you're at, but you want to be there. You're constantly elevating yourself more along the lines. You're going to be able to meet that goal, meet that threshold in whatever way, shape, or form. If you continually put yourself in the places that are uncomfortable, put yourself into the situations that allow you to grow, and put yourself in a place that allows you to be the you that you want to be. Right. So hopefully I answered that question, but I hope that when it comes to reclaiming your power, for me, I just want to sum it up. It's about holding yourself accountable to the standards at which you want to be at, right? Nobody else is going to hold your hand throughout life. Nobody's going to be here to, here's your $1 million, boom. No, you're going to have to work for it. You got to put that foot down, put your hand in the mud. Okay. Lace up your belt, lace up your shoes, tuck your collar, pop your collar, whatever, boom, and get it going. Cause nobody's gonna be there for you but you. And you have to be the one to hold yourself accountable. So hope that answered your question. Yes, sir.
Yeah, man. We can't just wait on systems to shift. We've got to build new ones while tearing the old ones down. And referencing back to something you just said, the more you live, the more responsibilities you're gonna have, right? More and more is more. And it's crazy. I'm gonna use this analogy, but the other day I have a little sister and she has so many toys. So many toys. But funny enough, she wants more and 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 more toys. It's like she has a level of satisfaction, but she still sees herself getting some more toys at some point. Um, and it's just like in life, you're gonna get your satisfaction. You achieve one goal at a time. You're still gonna want more. All right. So we talked about the aspect of not just waiting on systems to shift, but actually taking accountability um, and shifting for yourself. Now let's talk about vulnerability.
Vulnerability, team. So
Yeah,
we're going
there
to
you go.
talk about vulnerability here. And for us, especially as black and brown men, right? So we've been taught to stay silent, stay strong, and stay stoic. But honestly, that's just another trap. Let's be honest here. So, Tex, like for you, like what does that look like for vulnerability?
I think vulnerability. Oh, I finally said the word. Vulnerability breaks
Vulnerability.
cycles.
Yes, sir.
I think it breaks cycles when we share, when we open up, when we say, "Yo, I'm not okay. Yo, I'm actually okay." Being that voice of change for yourself, you're showing that strength. That doesn't mean silence. And between you and I, we've always been, real about the aspect of emotional growth. Like, where do you see yourself? Like, what is it that you're pushing yourself to do? And something that is actually funny enough that I actually think about when it comes to vulnerability that I think is kind of misunderstood is that there's this cycle of blind following, right? Just going with the trend of just saying like I'm gonna just go with whatever everybody else is saying and feel like I fit in. Hell nah. Just going with the flow because it's trending, because it's louder or because it feels safer than actually asking questions and speaking up for yourself. I think that is a problem when it comes to the aspect of being vulnerable.
I agree.
You should feel comfortable in how you're vulnerable, who you're with, how you're doing it, but don't be silent about it. And I think we've made a habit, and I'm speaking this for myself actually, from my own experience. I used to have a habit of outsourcing my thinking to the timeline or to whatever's going on in the world rather than actually sourcing it to my internal environment, which is myself. or mimicking opinions, or following the hot takes, or mistaking that for the truth. And then sometimes they made me wonder why I don't feel grounded. And I feel like it's the same thing for a lot of people, is that they just blind following kind of limits them from actually having that aspect of vulnerability. So I think that is why sometimes we don't feel solid in ourselves, and you can't build a life of substance on borrowed thoughts. Every thought has its own originality, and your thought is your own thought. Yes, it can have influence from others in how it becomes a thought, but it is still an original thought for yourself. Now, this kind of transitions to the next part, which I won't touch upon yet until I let Gabe share on this. Um, you know, what do you think about vulnerability when it comes to, as a man, um, as a husband, as a father, as a brother, as whatever it is? Like, how do you approach that?
I think, of course, I can only speak to my experience, right? And so, first off, I think about my emotional growth in terms of being able to even speak my truth to other people. And that happened, it didn't happen really when I was in high school. It happened when I was in college and I was able to confide in other like minded individuals. But I had to grow for myself to also take that back and circling back to the family, circling back to my own owning my own development, and also circling back to okay, yes, I may have been in traumatic experiences, but how do I grow emotionally to be able to accept other people into my life, to be able to accept other experiences that I haven't necessarily been open to, but I know that with the necessary work and due diligence, I'll be able to make that a little more open. I like to stem off of my relationship with my immediate family, right? My siblings that are all alive and what have you. I think sometime after my time in college, I think I had a real one on one about like just emotionally how our relationships were in that regard, and like one on ones with everybody. Like, hey, this is what you were for me, X, Y, and Z during this period of my time, but currently now. I can't be held in that framework of mind where it's that, oh, I'm still your little brother, or yeah, I'm your big brother, but he's just over here doing whatever he wants. Like no, like we're all humans and we're family. And I had to show my own emotional growth to actually let people understand where I stand in life and where I stand with them, and to be okay with wherever that pen falls. Having those conversations as well with like friends or with you know people that you may be peers with, right? Drawing lines in the sand or like setting your boundaries in that regard may come off as a little bit strong or maybe even a little bit aggressive to some people, especially when emotionally you've been a very passive person. It comes as a shock to a lot of people, right? Because for so many years you may have been like, oh, let me turn the other cheek. Let me do right. It's all right. They'll work it out. They'll be good. Um, so it's not only holding myself accountable, right, but on holding others accountable for myself, for my own peace, protecting my own peace. I know, like in college, you were there along that time, but I lost my mom in college, and I had a lot of different emotions going on at the time, and there's no real pain that you can work through in that regard when you lose someone you love like that. But keep putting your foot forward. You become a little bit more emotionally strengthened in that regard. Because now, instead of being someone who can't attest to something like that, a huge loss, a pain. Now I can speak to it, and so and especially when other people that I may be a leader for or may be in rooms with, they're experiencing something, and I can speak to it about what I went through and sharing your own emotional growth and how you're able to heal from those scars, heal those wounds that are now scars for you, and it shows a lot of strength, a lot of openness, but then also uh, I would say the conviction that you have to move forward throughout all the different obstacles that life gives you. So hopefully I answered the question, but promotional growth really it stemmed for me just standing up for what you believe in. And then in addition as well, uh, making sure that you draw those boundaries for your own emotional peace, right? You understand, and whether it may be therapy, whether it may be journaling, what have you, but you get a fine understanding of why you are where you're at, and understand that okay, we know where the baseline is. How do we move forward, right? And finding smart and realistic goals about moving forward, defining those, and then taking steps toward it. No, we're not perfect by any means, but we could all work on becoming better as individuals and as a group and as a community. So just my little piece there. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Nobody's perfect. Um, shout out,
Nobody's
shout,
perfect.
shout
Nobody's
out.
perfect.
So, and
Hey.
that's it. It's not about being. I don't want to say it's not about being soft, but it's about being whole and somebody who actually respects first yourself. You can't just go out there and not respect yourself. And kind of following up on this is kind of might it might sound like I'm going sideways here, but it's kind of relevant to this topic of another cycle that I think is kind of stuck within our communities, and we've got to break it. And thank you, Gabe, for sharing that aspect of the vulnerability. But I'm gonna shift your gears a little bit now.
Okay.
It's going to be like I think there is the cycle of letting politics decide who you love, who you support, and who you cancel. Right? At at what point did we reduce human beings to party lines in voting histories? Like, if someone checks a different box on a ballot, that suddenly erases their worth, their humanity? I think we've lost the ability to disagree and still hold space for each other, which makes it seem like we cannot be vulnerable with each other. It's like you're gonna have people hiding in the closet because they align with this side versus the other side. It's like, why can't we just be human together and sometimes agree to disagree, right? And I think we've made the term different the same as dangerous. Just because somebody's different, they're not dangerous. And I think by doing that, it's not growth. That's division dressed up as a virtue. So I think we need to stop, worshiping echoing chambers and just start having these real conversations, hard conversations, ones that don't end in blocking in this generation or ghosting, but in actual understanding, because you don't know what somebody is going through for them to actually have that opinion. It might be something that happened in their life. It might be something that's traumatic that's happened in their life for them to actually be in alignment with that specific thing. Um, and or at least just having mutual respect, right? Because if your politics require you to dehumanize somebody else, maybe it's time to re-examine what you're loyal to. Is it like, what is it that you're actually loyal to? And that is just something I just wanted to put out there when it comes to the aspect of vulnerability, because I feel like nowadays the external world that is out there is causing people to not feel that they can be vulnerable. It's making them feel like they can hide in their shell. Just because somebody supports this and you support that, don't mean you gotta hate them. Does not. Everybody has a reasoning of why they're doing it. Yes, sometimes I do agree. There can be certain things, if we're gonna, I'm not gonna escalate to more intellectual debates about, like, well,
Yeah.
what if something's a race?
Let's cut it
I'm
there.
not gonna do that. So
Yeah.
I definitely think that that is something that is important to also understand in our current dynamics of society, and also as individuals of understanding that. But then now that's all I had to say.
But before you segue, I do want to add something to that. I think
Okay, okay.
I'm not involved in politics. I don't pick sides, right? And I think anybody, whatever Democrat, Republican, third party, whatever you choose, that is your choice.
Libertarian, independent, with a Green Party, it doesn't matter.
Okay. It doesn't matter. That is your free choice, your free will. Go right ahead. But I think one thing that Tex did say that was eloquently put is we don't ask enough questions about why, right? Okay, you can feel some type of way, whether it be a Republican or Democrat or a third party. However, if we're not seeking to actually understand why, now we're just causing more division within our community. If we, as a whole, took a step back and be okay, I understand that they may be on one side of the fence, but chose to understand why, we can change our own perception of that person and ultimately change our perspective as a whole of this entire system of politics. Because at the end of the day, we all have to do our job, right? We all have to work together, right? So do our politicians. They have to do their job. They have to work together. They have to agree to put things into law, into legislation, all of the above. At the end of the day, America is a team. If we're not operating as a team, then we're just one dysfunctional bunch of people, right? So that's my little spiel right there. I'll turn it over back up to Tex for our next segment. Yes, sir.
Yeah, together everyone achieves more. Just want to stand that on. That's together everyone achieves more.
One team,
Um,
one dream. Mm.
let's go. Now we're going to transition to our last segment, which we usually do on every single episode. Is three for the founders. Blue
Yeah,
five.
you know.
Okay. All right. Let's hit our segment. So I'm gonna start with the first one. Gabe's gonna have the other two. My number one for today is we've got to break a cycle. The fear and confusion around clean energy and electric vehicles. Somewhere along the way, we let the idea of sustainability become a political argument instead of a common sense move for the future. Um, I think clean energy isn't the enemy. It's not. EVs aren't a threat to tradition. It's actually showing human technological innovation. Like, it's showing our own ability to be original and create something that's showing innovation. They're a tool for survival. And I think we've been stuck in a cycle of misinformation where progress feels suspicious or skeptical just
Mm.
because it's new. But I think the truth is transitioning to cleaner systems gives us more independence, right? Better health and long-term savings. Last time I checked, when in the 1900s, life expectancy that back then versus life expectancy now, completely different. Maybe because as human beings, we are innovative, right?
Mm.
And this isn't about choosing sides. It's about choosing common sense. And breaking the cycle here means stepping out of fear and stepping into what's possible. So breaking cycles starts with brutal honesty, asking yourself, am I addicted to blame? Am I scared to think for myself? Have I let somebody else's belief system override my ability to connect? Cycles don't just break because you notice them. They break when you choose differently. When you stop reaching and reacting out of habit and start responding out of clarity. Um, and to close it out on the first take on the three for the founders is you don't have to keep playing the same roles in the same story. You can flip the script. You can choose to think deeper, love better, and stop shrinking yourself to fit into systems that were never built for truth. So break that cycle because repeating it is just a slower form of self-destruction. Now I'll pass it on to Gabe for the last two takes for three for the founders, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I did want to just attest that, thank you for sharing that, your perspective about clean energy and in that regard, like electric vehicles, because I kind of agree a little bit in that regard where it comes that it is a question about like not productivity, but what are we going to be in the future rather than like picking sides about who's right, who's wrong. Like, especially what would be the best thing for our children, for the future generations. Think in that mindset, macro perspective, and then make a decision about where to support, what to do. I'm not political. This is not a political podcast, but a great point. Thank you for sharing. Moving on to our second point, right? I did want to share a book, uh, or should I say, a moment that shifted my own mindset in terms of breaking cycles, right? So one thing I want to share with everyone here is that you are not defined by your uh, what you've done in the past. You're defined by the decisions that you make day in and day out moving forward. Right now, when it comes to our cycles and the cycles that we may have, one thing I wanted to stem back to and approach is the topic of addiction. Now, addiction looks different for everybody. For a lot of people now in our new age of data and mobile phones, it's holding that phone. I just learned that on a day-to-day basis, a regular average phone user touches their phone 2,762 times. Done by a Harvard research study. You can look up the fact checks. And in similar ways, right, we have other addictions as well. Whether it be, oh, I'm going to be on social media, or, oh, I'm addicted to indulging in whatever vice that you may have, whatever that may be, right? Addiction looks different for everybody, right? And I challenge everyone to take a step back to understand, right? You're not defined by your previous choices, but you're defined by the decisions that you actively make day in and day out. If you take a second to just look at what you do throughout the day, take a mental note one day, or write it on your notes in your phone or on a notebook, right? So that we can avoid using our phones. But take a time to actually look at what you do on a daily day basis. And I challenge you to whatever it may be, whatever you're giving the most time to, I'm sure that you can challenge yourself to direct that to somewhere that can either improve your situation, improve your mental fortitude, or improve you and the friends, family, and where you're headed in terms of your finances. So um, that's my one piece right there. I want to make sure to for our number two, right, is that I challenge you attack whatever addiction, whatever cycle that you are currently in, break it. Seek help, seek ways that you and methods that you can break it actively, and then of course, right, track your journey and see when you start and see where you're from and how your life has changed, especially when you're talking about achieving goals or setting yourself up for highest standards, right? You cannot insist on the highest standards if you're not holding yourself accountable to those. Hold yourself accountable. I challenge you all. And moving into our third and last point for three for the founders. Yes, sir. Can I get a drum roll,
Hot
please?
take, hot take, hot take, hot take, hot take of the day. The last one of the day.
Yes,
For
sir.
three.
Hot tick right here. The biggest cycle that you can break is the cycle of food. What you put into your body, what you are regularly giving to your body is what is going to fuel you throughout your day, throughout your week, throughout your month, year, and whatever that may be. If you're constantly putting in candy, marshmallows, popcorn, pizza, garbage, etc., what do you think your body's going to produce for you? What do you think your mind's going to think for you? What do you think your spirit and your soul is going to feel? I challenge you all to document and watch what you're putting into your body and break the cycle, because what you eat is what you are, what you grow, what you do, and how you feel, right? Whether, and I'm not saying go cold turkey or anything. I'm not saying to stop eating specific foods and what have you. I'll let you all decide, but do some research and see about making a change and breaking your cycle. And I want you to observe and document how you feel throughout that. If you see significant change, you see something that might be working best for you, you might have made a good break of the cycle. If breaking the cycle that you're doing doesn't help, hey, by all means, return back to what you want. But we're all about breaking cycles here. We're all about improvement, about creating a sustainable living environment, not only for our mind, not only for our body, for our soul, but for our community as well. Here as Black people, one of the biggest things and something that I've noticed as well is that there's a lot of people that are diabetic in our communities. A lot of people that are dealing with type 2 diabetes, and just want to bring that up just because not only do I care about you, but I love you all because everybody who's listening. And I want us all to progress, to be great, live long lives, do well, be breadwinners, be the best that we can be, so that we as a whole, we as a community, can arise and uplift ourselves. So I appreciate you all for joining us here. That's our hot take for three for the founders, and I'm gonna turn it over for the closing to Tex. Yes, sir.
Three for the founders. So today, we wanted to just talk about a little bit about breaking cycles. Breaking cycles is messy, but it's necessary. It's important. And Gabe got some challenges for y'all. So if y'all interested, go comment below and see if you would let us know what your journey is on your breaking your cycle journey. It's how we stop surviving and just start living. Whether it's in your family, your politics, or your self-talk. Like I mentioned before on one of our previous episodes, like one of my self-care ways is I talk to myself. That's like my own self-talk. So you have the power to choose something better. You have the power to choose what serves to you, and also anybody else around you. So Gabe, any last thoughts for the people out there, man?
Yeah. One thing I'm always going to say is, of course, seek God. There's a higher calling. You know, you cannot handle it all by yourself. However big, bad, and amazing that you think you are, there's always room for some help, improvement, and whatever that may look like. Hey, seek the man upstairs. But in addition, as well, continue to move forward. Don't get caught up in the cycle that you're currently in. Right? You don't know what this cycle is preparing you for, and you don't know what your situation is preparing you for. Right? Continue to move forward, or continue to progress. It's the voice of the change. Mm.
Amen. And just to shout out somebody who's illustrious, go after more every day. So just wanted to say that out there. And don't forget, if this episode hit you, check out the Alive Podcast Network. You'll get more Black hosted podcasts, ad-free content, and you'll be supporting this show directly as well. We appreciate y'all. Keep thinking for yourself, keep choosing healing, and most of all, keep breaking those cycles. And as we always see here on the Voices of Change, peace out. We love y'all. Thank
Peace
y'all.
and love, family. All right.
Bye bye.